Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. And I greet you from my sitting room here in the Caribbean island of Trinidad with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is today the 13th day of the month of Safar of the year 1444. I don't know what day it is in September, probably 5 or 6 or 7, but it's not important to me anymore. And the topic of this video is a very interesting one. It is Armenia's Muslims and Kosovo's Christians. Armenia's Muslims and Kosovo's Christians. There is a common link between the two. Both Armenia's Muslims and Kosovo's Christians have been driven out of their homes and out of the lands in which they live for no just cause. And in the case of Armenia's Muslims, they had to convert to Islam in order to save themselves from being driven out to become refugees. That's how they converted to Islam. But Armenia's Christians who were driven out of their homes and out of the land in which they live, they are in a similar boat to Kosovo's Christians. And today's video looks to the strategic importance of those Armenians who converted to Islam and are now known as Armenian Muslims. The strategic importance that these people, who perhaps are more than 1 million, maybe 2 million of them, who are still Armenians, and no Turkish Muslim and no Ottoman Muslim dares to declare otherwise. You can't take an Armenian and make him a Turk. Stop it! Get lost! They are still Armenians. And I'll shout in your faces to tell you, they're still Armenians. You can't rob them of their Armenian dignity and identity. We'll fight fire with fire. They are still Armenians. And I am recording this video to tell them you should be proud of being Armenians. Yes, he's a Pakistani Muslim, he's an Egyptian Muslim, he's an Algerian Muslim. Why can't you be an Armenian Muslim? Who can tell you you're not an Armenian Muslim? The time has come to fight fire with fire and tell these racist people you can't change a people's identity. So what is the strategic role that Armenia's Muslims have to play? They have been scared, frightened, hiding their identity for 100 years now, terrorized by these wicked people whose hearts are filled with hatred for Christians, despicable people who say they are Muslims. Well, there's no more Ottoman Empire today. You don't have the army of the Ottoman Empire to help you today. And if this Turkish government continues to remain comfortably so a member of NATO, wait for the big war and see what happens to them. Wait for the big war and see what happens to them. So what is the role of the Armenian Muslims who had to convert to Islam by force because the alternative was death? The alternative was expulsion, to become refugees. You'll die. Millions of them died. That's why you had the Armenian genocide and the Holocaust. That's why they choose to remain and they be converted to Islam. So what are the implications for them? And this video is meant to reach these people in particular, to tell them the time has come for you to declare your Armenian identity. You are Armenians. Yes, you are Muslims, but you are Armenians. The second thing we want to say to you is that the Quran is absolute truth. The law of the government, the law of the Republic of Turkey is not the absolute truth. The absolute truth is in the Quran. And if you do not recognize absolute and truth in the Quran, you're not a Muslim. You go down in the grave as a kafir if you don't declare absolute, if you don't recognize absolute truth in the Quran. If you believe that your Turkish law is supreme over the Quran, you'll go down in the grave as a kafir. That's right. So I'm reminding you, if you can be reminded, I know many of you cannot be reminded, because you turn your backs on the Quran. Your supreme loyalty is not to the Quran. Your supreme loyalty is to your race. Your race, your Turkish race. That is your supreme loyalty. And I'm telling you that to your faces. But not all of you are like that. There are those who still have the recognition of supreme truth in the Quran. And the supreme, the absolute truth in the Quran has declared that there is no compulsion in religion. La ikraha fi din. So anyone who is forced to convert to Islam against his will has the freedom to now revoke that and return to becoming a Christian. Yes, you have the right to do that. To leave the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ and return to the Ummah of Jesus, of Nabi Isa ﷺ, the true Messiah. If your father had to convert to Islam, and you were born in a Muslim home, but your father was forced to become a Muslim, you have the right as well to return to Christianity if you choose to do. And nobody can stop you. Tell us if any voice ever raises itself to say you cannot return to Christianity. Tell us who he is, identify him, and we'll deal with him. We'll deal with him because we are preserving the true faith in the Quran. I don't know what they are preserving. We are preserving the true faith in the Quran. So any Armenian, whether it was your father or your grandfather, or your mother or your grandmother, who had to convert to Islam by force, and you recognize that, and it pains you in your heart, and you want to return to be a follower of Jesus, you have the right to do that, and I'm making this video to tell you that. You have the right to do that. And if there's anyone who wants to stop you, any village in Turkey who wants to take action against you, we now have the age of the video camera. And every telephone, what do you call it, phone, smartphone can take photographs. And we send the photographs all over the world. Shame on you if you're a village in Turkey. We'll spread that village all over the world. And the whole world will see the nastiness of a people who want to convert people by force to Islam and say they are Muslims. That's what the Ottoman Empire did. Shame on the Ottoman Empire. Shame on the Ottoman Empire. And you can't stop me. Shame on the Ottoman Empire for forcing these people to become Muslims. Thank Allah that I have the freedom to speak these words today before Allah called me away from this world. Thank Allah for that I have the freedom. And you can't stop me from talking. What is the implication of an Armenian Muslim who wants to return to become a follower of Jesus? This is advice from your brother Muslim to you. If you want to return to become a Christian, having been a Muslim, I urge you for your own sake, for your own benefit on Judgment Day, for your own benefit when you go down in the grave, that you must continue to believe in the Quran as the word of the one God. That is absolute truth. Whoever rejects that the Quran is the word of the one God, whoever rejects that will pay a horrible price for it. And that when you accept the Quran, when you retain the belief in the Quran, and there are many Christians now who are writing to me and contending, yes, we believe that the Quran is the word of the one God. Yes. Then you will also believe that Muhammad, Allah's blessing be upon him, is the prophet of that one God. So yes, you will leave the ummah of Muhammad alayhi salam, and you'll join the ummah of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. You'll follow Jesus, but you'll still have in your heart belief in the Quran as the word of the one God, and belief in Muhammad, Allah's blessing be upon him, as the prophet of that one God. And you, the Armenian Muslims, who choose to remain Muslims, and you, the Armenian Muslims who now choose to return to be Christians, you have a strategic role to play. You have a duty to go to your Christian brothers, the Armenian Christians all over the world, and tell them, Islam is not your enemy. Islam is your friend. It is bogus Islam which waged jihad, bogus jihad against you. And today the time has come for us to condemn that bogus jihad and to bring to you, before you, the beauty of the true Islam, which is your friend, so that the Armenian Muslims have a strategic role to play in building friendship and alliance between the community which follows Jesus, the Christian world, and the community which follows Muhammad, Allah's blessing be upon them, the Muslim world. Allah says something else in the Quran about those who are driven out of their homes and out of the lands in which they live unjustly, for no just cause except that they said, we believe in the one God, we believe in Allah. This is what happened to the Christian Armenians. They were driven out of their homes. But Allah says in Surah Al-Hajj that they have the right to return to their homes. So when we liberate that land, when the conquest of Constantinople takes place, 7 years after the Great War, as prophesied by Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, a Muslim army is going to conquer Constantinople. Then on that day we will also liberate all the lands which used to be known as Western Armenia. And those who have hatred in their hearts for the Christians will have to run, flee, because their hearts are filled with only hatred for Christians. And they would kill them, they would slaughter them, they would show no mercy for them. That's what happened in 1915. But now, wherever you are an Armenian, and you used to be there, your father, your grandfather used to live there, you are free to now return to your homes. And we, the world of Islam, will protect you and ensure that justice is done. But those Muslims who did not have hatred for Christians in their hearts, and who were helping the Christians at the time when the Christians were being slaughtered, and who to this day despise what was done to the Ottoman Christians, these Muslims don't have to run anywhere, they remain where they are. The parallel with Kosovo is also there. The Christians who had to leave Kosovo, flee from Kosovo, because they were being oppressed, those Christians, and there are so many of them who are now refugees outside of Kosovo. When that day comes and the true Islam replaces the bogus Islam which now prevails in Kosovo, when that day comes when the true Islam replaces the bogus Islam which is now prevailing in Kosovo, let me repeat it for the third time. When that day comes when true Islam replaces the bogus Islam which now prevails in Kosovo, then on that day Muslims and Christians will live as brothers in a fraternity. and every Christian from Kosovo who had to leave. I'm not concerned whether they are Serbs or they are Albanians or this or that. I'm concerned with their faith. They are Christians. You will now have the freedom to return to your homes in Kosovo. If they want to deny you that freedom, they will do it at their peril, because when that day comes, they won't be able to stop it. So the parallel with Armenia is the same parallel with Kosovo. The Quran is absolute truth, and truth in the Quran will prevail on that day. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.